The Galactic Academy's entrance hall shimmered with bioluminescent panels, each one displaying the proud insignias of 1,000 civilized worlds. Mia stood among the crowd of new cadets, her human frame dwarfed by the towering Krelthery and the bulbous-headed Vex. She caught the eye of another human across the crystalline floor robe who gave her a nervous smile. They were the only 2 humans in this year's cohort. Attention, cadets. The voice belonged to Instructor Velthus, a 6-limbed Arxian whose copper exoskeleton gleamed under the Academy's artificial sunlight. You have been selected from billions across the Galactic Union. Today begins your evaluation. Mia's heart raced. She'd spent 3 years preparing for this moment, studying xenobiology, quantum mechanics, and 17 different forms of interspecies diplomacy. Beside her, a Krelthery cadet clicked its mandibles in what she'd learned was their expression of confidence. The cadets were ushered into the testing chamber, a vast spherical room where gravity seemed more like a suggestion than a law. Floating at the center was a massive crystalline structure, the puzzle of infinite paths, legendary throughout the Union as the ultimate test of cognitive ability. You will each have 1 standard hour to analyze the puzzle, Velthus announced. We will then explain its mechanics, and you will have an additional 3 hours to attempt a solution. The Vexiner typically solve it in 4 hours. The Arxian record is 5. Humans. The instructor's voice carried a hint of condescension. Humans tend to overthink such matters. We expect 6 to 7 hours, if you solve it at all. Mia felt her jaw tighten. She'd heard this before, the gentle mockery disguised as academic observation. Humans complicate. Humans see patterns where none exist. It was the Galactic Union's polite way of calling them paranoid. The crystalline puzzle began to rotate, its facets catching light and throwing prismatic patterns across the chamber. Mia squinted at it, her mind already racing. She could see 17 distinct layers, each one rotating independently. Symbols flickered across the surfaces, mathematical notations from different species, chemical formulas, star charts, and what looked like musical notation. Roab floated nearby, his brow furrowed in concentration. The other cadets had already begun taking notes on their data tablets, carefully documenting each visible element, the proper way, the methodical way. But Mia wasn't looking at the symbols anymore. She was looking at the spaces between them. Her human brain, that supposedly a pattern-seeking mess of neurons, had already noticed something. The rotation speeds weren't random, they were harmonic, and the gaps between the symbols, the negative space that everyone else was ignoring, formed their own pattern when the layers aligned at specific intervals. It's not a puzzle, Mia whispered to herself. It's a lock. Her fingers flew across her tablet, calculating rotation periods, mapping the precise moments when the gaps would align. 37 seconds. That's all she needed. 37 seconds of perfect synchronization, Cadet Mia. Velthus' voice echoed through the chamber. The observation period is for silent study. I'm done observing, Mia said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She pushed off from her platform, using the chamber's microgravity to propel herself toward the puzzle. The room fell silent. Every cadet, every instructor, watched as this human girl, this supposedly complicating human, reached out toward the legendary puzzle. Cadet, you cannot possibly, Velthus began. Mia's hand found the first gap. She'd done the math. She trusted her calculations. Her fingers pressed into the empty space between symbols on the outermost layer. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the layer clicked. She heard gasps from around the chamber. Her other hand was already moving to the second layer, finding the corresponding gap. Click the third layer. Click. Her human brain, evolved to spot predators in tall grass and read emotions in facial made connections that most species needed computers to process. Fourth layer. Fifth. Sixth. Impossible. Someone breathed. A Vexiner, if Mia's translation was correct. The puzzle was responding now, its rotations accelerating to match her movements. She was in the flow state, that peculiarly human condition where time seemed to slow and the universe narrowed to a single point of focus. Athletes called it being in the zone. Her grandfather, a chess master, had called it seeing the board. Mia called it Tuesday. 10th layer, 11th. The symbols were glowing now, responding to the pattern she'd unlocked. She could feel Roab's eyes on her, could sense the instructor's disbelief radiating through the chamber. 15th layer. 16th. She's going to solve it, Roab said, his voice filled with awe. She's actually going to solve it. The 17th and final layer clicked into place. The puzzle of infinite paths blazed with light, its crystalline structure rearranging itself into a perfect geometric flower. a holographic display materialized, showing a completion time that made Veltha's copper exoskeleton pale to bronze. 11 minutes, 43 seconds. The chamber erupted. Cadets from a dozen species chattered in their native tongues. Instructors rushed forward to verify the readings. And somewhere in the chaos, Mia heard Roab laughing with pure, delighted pride. Veltha's floated before her, all 6 limbs spread in what Mia recognized as Arxian amazement. How? The instructor asked simply. Mia smiled, thinking of all those lectures about human overthinking, all those studies about pattern recognition and paranoia, all those supposedly negative traits that her species couldn't seem to evolve past. You said humans overthink, she replied, gently pushing herself back toward her platform. Maybe, but we also see connections that others miss. We find meaning in chaos. We solve problems that aren't even fully explained yet, because we're too impatient to wait for all the data. She glanced at Roab, who grinned back at her. You call it overthinking. We call it being human. As the other cadets resumed their analysis, now with considerably more respect in their multifaceted eyes, Mia caught Roab's attention and mouthed to words that would become their private motto throughout their years at the academy. Fuck yeah. The Galactic Union would learn, as species after species had learned before them, that humanity's greatest weakness was also its greatest strength. They overthought. They saw patterns everywhere, found connections in noise, made intuitive leaps that defied logic, and sometimes they were absolutely right. The puzzle of infinite paths had stood unsolved for less than 12 minutes against human ingenuity. Mia suspected it wouldn't be the last time the galaxy underestimated what overthinking could accomplish. After all, they were only getting started.